server is in sync. We are recording. We are streaming to a bunch of places. We've got Michelle locked up, and we will unleash her soon. And bumpers running, chat rooms waiting. Starting a countdown to Studio 13. Well, good evening. Welcome back. PJNet.tv is on the air. I'm going to have to make a few announcements first because Michelle's giggling because I mentioned she was locked up in captivity. She's got this black, one of those, what do they call those things? Straight jackets, they put you in for being crazy. And she's all in my head right now. Yeah, it's really fun. Folks, it's always fun when Michelle Medlock Adams joins us, and we always learn so much. And glad to see some new people. And I want to, Michelle, let me bring Michelle on board so that she can express her contempt for me making fun of her. And in our chat room is not a really new visitor. Brian Glover is here. Brian, your name came up in a conversation today, and I would like to speak to you off the air. Well, on the air too, for that matter. Anyway, an old-time friend of PJNet.tv. So many wonderful folks in our chat room, and we welcome all of you. If you're watching this on social media, glad you stopped scrolling and checked it out. I hope you'll stay with us. I hope that you'll accept our invitation to pjnet.tv. You can watch it there, and there's a bunch of people there, and they will do nice things. They will welcome you and love on you, and they'll follow you on Twitter and all. That's the only incentive we got. The programming's not bad either. Michelle joins us every Wednesday at this time when she's not under deadline, not traveling, not when are you not under deadline, by the way?
I there was about 2 weeks this year that wasn't, and then I signed 2 contracts, so it's on again. Yeah.
Well, and your husband is an accountant. When is it not some deadline for tax filings of some kind?
I mean, this year has been insane because with the 2020 pandemic and all those was it PUAs or what the assistance everybody got, it changed a lot of rules, and so he's pretty much been crazy on deadline all last year, and this is the official tax season, so yeah. But it's funny. We just redid his office in our house that we are redoing this past week, and so we put a couch in there with an ottoman, so I can go in there and work on my laptop in his office. And even though we're both working on deadline work together, so we look up once in a while and be like, "Hey, I still like you. How's it going?" And it's nice that we can be in there together. And he said last night we went to bed. He goes, "I really love you being in the office with me." I'm like, "I'm really glad that you love me being in there." So it's kind of neat that we both work from home, even though we are working a lot of crazy hours.
I've made a place for my dog in the eagle's nest, and it was so crowded in here. We cleared it out. My wife helped me, but there's a little place over here that he's kind of made home. And he stayed. At first he couldn't stay 10 minutes, and then it got to be 30 minutes, but at this point he just goes to sleep over there. And it's like, "Hey, you want to go outside?" And he just rolls over. No, anyway.
I'm good. Yeah.
You told me before we went on the air that today is National Random Act of Kindness Day. Now, I don't know if Congress declared this, or you read these things. Where's the authoritative calendar on all these days? Because everybody claims it's a day, but what better day? There's no bad day to do a random act of kindness. So whoever pulled this stunt off, I'm glad you did, because I'm trying to think when the last time I received a random act of kindness. Every time somebody calls me, it seems like they want something. I'm gonna start answering the phone. What do you want?
Yeah.
That's what, let's just skip the pleasantries of, how's the weather down there? You don't really care. Here, let me connect you to the television station.
What's the bottom line here? Well, I will say a couple weeks ago, I was in line at Starbucks, and I don't often go to Starbucks. I'm not a coffee drinker. I think I've told y'all that. I like my Diet Pepsi with a little cherry Pepsi on
Circle
top. That's
K,
my mixed drink.
Yeah, bladder buster.
Yeah, that's it.
What do they call it?
It's a Polar Pop.
Yeah.
Polar Pop is my favorite. But I had a gift card that someone had given me for Christmas, who obviously doesn't know me very well because I don't ever go to Starbucks, but that's okay. So I had this, and I thought I'll go get something. So I got like an iced coffee thing, which was pretty good. Yeah. But the person in front of me paid for mine, and I had a gift card to use. And I was like, oh, when that, and so then I thought, well, then I'll pay for the person behind me. So then I did that. And so that, it was kind of, I'm sure that just kept going, but that was pretty neat. I wasn't expecting it. And I had my little gift card already, but the person in front of me paid for mine. So I think that was a nice little random act of kindness. When those things happen, it just makes you feel like it's a little kiss from heaven. It's like somebody cares. I saw on Facebook today that a friend of mine, she's a really gifted photographer here in Lawrence County, that her husband and the two of them had gone to Bloomington to get a pizza, which is about 30 miles north of here. It's a really good pizza. It's worth the drive. And while they were up there, they saw an elderly gentleman whose car wasn't working. It probably got so cold that the engine wouldn't run. Anyway, he was having a hard time. So this gal, she's so sweet. Her husband, he was getting in there, and it's frigid here. It's like 7 degrees. I think it actually got up to 25 today, which is a heat wave so far in Indiana. But it was really, really cold. And so he got out to help this guy, and because he said to his wife, he was like, I need to go out and help him. So immediately got up and was outside for a long time and pushed this guy's car, and she snuck a picture. She said, he'll probably make me take this down because he doesn't like anybody to brag on him, but I'm just so proud of the man that he is. And I told her, I said, that's such a wonderful thing to be proud of the person that you're married to. I love that you're doing that. And it reminded me of when we went to an Indiana University basketball game. Jeff and I, it was Valentine's Day a few years ago, and I got us tickets. That was my gift to us, was to go to an IU game. We don't have season tickets anymore, so they're high dollar. So we got them for us, and then for my daughter Allie and her husband Wes. So the four of us went, and it was another one of these blistery Indiana February nights, and there were several inches of, and it was a mess on that. I almost ate the pavement several times just walking from Assembly Hall to the car. It was really not good conditions. And an elderly couple next to us, same thing, that were having trouble with their car. In fact, they realized that not only would their car not start, which they finally did get it to start, but their tire was so low in the back, Jeff was afraid for them to drive home. So we put them in the car with us so they could get warm, while Jeff and Wes got underneath the car. And they were muddy and covered in snow and everything when they got in the car to go home. And I could never have been more proud of them just for being the stand-up guys that they were. And that's been a couple of years ago, but I immediately thought of that whenever I saw that on Facebook today. There's been lots of times when people in my life have done stuff for me, but also I've witnessed them doing things for other people. And I think we should do that. Not only is it a random acts of kindness day to day, but the Bible tells us to be kind. I have a couple of verses I thought I'd read, so you just don't think I'm making it up. Ephesians 4:32 says, be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another as God in Christ forgave you. And then Galatians 6:10 says, so then as we have opportunity, let us do good to everyone, and especially to those who are of the household of faith. And then Galatians 5:22 says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, great gentleness, and self-control. And so kindness is thrown in there. And then what is the second verse of 1 Corinthians 13, the love chapter? It says, love is patient, love is kind. And so, there's enough of those verses in the Bible that it's not, you don't need an actual day on the calendar that somebody, randomly selected for you to do an act of kindness. We should be walking in kindness every day. But today's a good reminder that you can be intentional about it. Look for ways to be kind to people.
Well, you were mentioning random acts of kindness, and you also mentioned the Starbucks gift card. And it's funny because I was kind of going through my wallet looking for something that I hadn't used in who knows when, and came across a Starbucks gift card that I used when I went to Starbucks, which I don't anymore. So, but what I would do, there was some kind of point system. So if you used the gift card, you accumulated points. So if whatever I ordered was $5, I'd put $5 on the card, and then, so this card can't have more than $1 on it. So I think what I'll do is just leave it on a gas pump, when I finish.
Yeah.
I've
like
also
a little surprise gift.
Right. It's sort of like if you get a gas card, one of those prepaid things, exhaust it, and then leave it in a parking lot, let somebody discover it and think that they've hit the jackpot. I also found a credit card that I have canceled. I thought, well, why don't I just put this on a gas pump somewhere,
I'm not sure that's a random act of kindness, but it is pretty funny.
Well, maybe it'll inspire some others to leave a genuine card in there. I commented earlier, and I guess it's disturbing. It's moving. Here's why. I was going to an evangelism conference, and we were talking about the importance of sharing the gospel salvation message with others. And the speaker said something very profound. He said, when is the last time someone approached you to share Jesus. I thought, I'm pretty old now. And the only time that I can remember is I was at a men's conference, and you have the assembly, in the big sanctuary auditorium, and then after you get done with all the loud music and waving around, and then you go to the little breakout classes around. Well, I was trying to find a particular class, and I couldn't locate it, and I found one of the ushers, and I approached him and said, "Sir, I'm just lost." He starts sharing the gospel with me.
Oh my gosh! Sorry, there's a huge insect that just flew at my head. I don't know what that is. This looks like a pterodactyl.
Well, if you'll just set your hair on fire, he will leave your hair. That's funny because there is a chameleon, a lizard, that lives in the PJ net since it's gotten cold. I see him from time to time, and the little critter's gotten more friendly, And I was going to put him outside. I thought, no, he's fine in here as long as he doesn't eat my, stuff. And
I like lizards, but I don't like flying insects. I don't know what that is, but obviously it came in because it's so cold out, but that needs to go somewhere else. I'm going to keep an eye on that. You continue your story.
Okay, I have. Well, I tell you what, Michelle, I'm going to give you a little break here, okay? And I wanted to make some announcements anyway. So Michelle, you're okay. Go kill the dadgum mosquito or whatever's bothering you over there, and try to do it kind of silently. That actually came at a good time, folks. Here's an announcement I'd like to make. We've talked about this here, and you've certainly observed the cold that has gripped our nation and some of the hardship that it's created, and people have been out of power long term. Well, my heart is really moved by this, and I feel so helpless because you can't go in there at this point, and even if you could, what would you do? So I put out a post the other day and was asking the question, where are the churches in this? And I immediately got a response saying there's churches all over that are opening themselves. Okay, I'm going to have to do something here. See, I can still hear Michelle screeching and hollering and screaming in my ear. You want to just turn it back on and watch her in her panic? I mean, because I'm watching the whole thing right here. Okay, what I'm going to do is take my earbuds out a minute. So Angie Ruark, who has appeared on our program, said there are churches that are offering. Well, I got poking around online, and Michelle, we did turn the cameras back on. Well, she can't hear me yet. And basically, here's the announcement, and I'll say more about it later. Normally our plans on Friday night, Steve Hazard runs the program from 9 to 10 with some oldies, and then has his program at 10. My perspective and comments. Folks, this Friday is going to be different. We are recording testimonies of churches that have opened themselves as warming centers. We are getting testimony from pastors who are going out and shoveling snow, thawing out pipes, repairing you name it. And these are not random acts of kindness, but we are going to literally put them on the air. So we don't really know when we're going to start yet, because we don't know how many programs we will have had recorded by then. But if you are within the sound of my voice and you are watching this, if you or your church is intervening and providing relief and assistance to people during this cold, what are we going to call it? The Frozen Tundra that has gripped our nation. We want not to glorify your church, but we want you to share how the love of Christ is radiating from your church through your people. And I've already spoken to several pastors, and I'm very encouraged. And folks, this is a place of hope and a place of encouragement. And whatever happens, I want you to make your plans Friday to be right here, because we are going to have a marathon, of love being poured out through God using his people in his churches and his leadership in those churches. And we are suspending all highlight videos. I did every errand that I could think of today to clear my slate, because we I am just thrilled with the idea of beaming out a positive message for people to know that, there is goodness. There is God's love is, we're not a bunch of people thumping our Bibles saying quit sinning. Okay. Although that we agree with God on these topics, but we do it in love. Okay, Michelle, I was so tempted to turn the camera on while you were doing that. I had to take my earplugs out. You were screeching and bless your heart.
I don't do bugs, especially flying ones, ever. So
my
husband came to the rescue. He came in here and grabbed it with his hands and left. So
it could have been one of them cuidados,
It could have been a cuidado. I'm telling you, that was a random act of kindness right there, coming in and saving his wife. I was thinking about all the things that people do when we were talking about the tundra, the Snowmageddon that we have. There's a foot of snow on the ground here, and we're expecting more tonight and tomorrow. And our city's pretty much shut down, although we have equipment that Texas doesn't, to actually clear the roads. So a lot of our roads are clear today. But out everywhere else, there's a foot of snow. And our driveway, it goes straight down. In fact, when we bought the house, I remember saying, that's going to be really fun in the winter. Never dreaming we'd have a winter like this, because all of our last 3 winters have been so mild. We fished Christmas Eve last year, not this past year, but in 2019. We've had really mild winters. But our driveway is pretty tricky. If you slide down in, I might end up in our neighbor across the street's living room because it goes straight down. So I was a little nervous to get out. And yesterday morning, I get a call from my best friend, Angie. And I missed the call because I was fixing Jeff breakfast. And I heard him say, well, hey, Angie, how are you? And she said, we are in your driveway. Is it okay if we get the snow off for you? And he said, yeah. Her husband, they are very active in their church. And the business they have lots of big equipment. Mm-hmm. And they I don't even know what kind of machinery it was, but it was a big piece. And they took all that snow, and our driveway was amazing. It looked like there'd never been any snow. So I was able to go out and do errands. It's just amazing that they did that for us. That was a nice little act of kindness, because otherwise, been Jeff and I out there with our shovels, and that wasn't going to be much fun. So we really appreciated that. And that's just somebody being nice to us. We didn't ask them to do that. Didn't expect it, but certainly appreciated it. I think it's great that when you can just bless somebody, whether it's a friend or a stranger or somebody that you just know needs it, that somebody, maybe you hear about a fire and somebody doesn't have any clothing, they lost everything. There's been a lot of that going on as well. Or you just know, just check on people. People out in Texas, I have a lot of friends and family out there because we lived there for 10 years. Mm-hmm. I've been sending lots of messages on Facebook and text messages. How are you guys doing? Can we do anything? We're praying already. Is there anything? I don't know what I can do from here, but I just want you to know that we're believing God that things will be better for you, and we're praying for you. And if there's anything I can physically do, let us know. We'll send stuff. You just want to let people know that they're being thought of, that they're not forgotten.
It's hard for me to imagine. I spent 14 years as the disaster relief director for the Florida Baptist Association, and I've seen some really bad stuff, but ice and snow was not among it. It was hurricanes mostly, mm-hmm. A few tornadoes, very few, but mostly hurricanes. But those are coming, and the unfortunate fact is, if you live in that environment long enough, after a while you desensitize yourself to it. It still impacts you, but you really find out what people are made of in times of trouble. And I think that I'm just grateful. I just want to glorify God, that His people are stepping up. And I want to put some weight on the other side of the scales, Michelle, because if you get on social media, you would get the impression that Christians are hate mongers. That we preach that we agree with God on topics that may not be popular in the pagan culture, and somehow. It's not that we disagree anymore. Now we're spewing hate speech, they call it. And I don't hate anybody.
Right.
I don't know any Christian that hates anybody, but God hates sin. And we just agree with God. And so where are these people who are so critical of the evangelicals in time of need like this? I haven't heard from any of them, but we are going to hear from the people in God's church and the love that they are showing and the compassion that they are showing unconditionally. for their, we've heard this phrase, and it's quite sickening to me, honestly. We're all in this together. Not really, but in this cold snap, yeah, we're all in this together. Our power's out. Our pipes are busted. Yeah, we are all in this together. So, that is not a random act of kindness, but I keep reminding myself of that verse that says, they will know we are Christians by our love.
Our love. That's right. Yeah.
And
we used to
so
sing that
much,
song all the time.
yeah, and so much of our church programming is geared toward education, discipleship, which are all good things. So much of our programming is designed as worship and in some ways entertainment. And those are all important things. But that's not how the world's going to know us. Oh yeah, those Christians, they're very righteous. Well, first of all, that's not true. But I remember you had a Adita Day. You know who I'm talking about.
Shannon.
Yes.
Yeah, Shannon Anderson. Yes.
I think that she's on the random act of kindness fix. I mean, she's got it. It's a cancer as far, it just, it eats her up. And she went on an intentional program to do a random act of kindness every single day. And she chronicled it in a book that So why not do that? And you say, well, I can't think of anything. Well, you haven't tried, have you? You haven't really opened your eyes.
There's opportunities every single day, and not just with strangers or, people that you might encounter outside of your home, but even within your home. That's how Shannon, her story starts. And I know she shared it on this program, that they just started doing it within their family, random acts of kindness to each other, and then sharing with each other what they've done maybe outside of their family. You can do random acts of kindness to your spouse, to your kids, to your grandkids. I babysat all day. That was an act of kindness to my daughter because she needed to not have little Ring with her all day. So I said, bring her over. Gigi's on duty. Do I have deadlines and stuff? Yes. Did I put them aside for her? Absolutely. I'll do it anytime she asks. And that's what we do. But I think many times when we get so self-absorbed in our little worlds and things going on with us, and that's when you get in trouble. You have to keep your eyes on the Lord, and then He'll make you see through His eyes those people that you can bless.
I'm going to make a confession of sorts, because if it's happened to me, it might have happened to some of you guys out there. You might have had some bad experience with random acts of kindness in the past, and you're saying, this is not for me, this is for others. Why would somebody think that? Okay, when I would offer a random act of kindness, my wife would sometimes say, well, what are you guilty of that you're trying to make? What did I, or if you're offering a random act of kindness to set up a future request for something in reciprocity, that's not a random act of kindness, is it? So, but the culture that we live on is a transactional culture, a mutual meeting of needs. So random act of kindness just doesn't intersect well with that, because I have done this kind of thing for the people behind me in line. I'll just pay for my coffee and tell them pay for theirs too. And honestly, most of the time it goes unnoticed, because I don't hang around to get congratulated. I just go to my. But from time to time, people will chase me down and say, thank you, or thank you, but why? Why do you do that? And I don't get real terribly religious with them, but that is an opportunity to share a gospel message, because here's the problem, Michelle. As Christians, we profess that we have all the answers, and actually God does. But here's the problem. Our rate of divorce is no better than the rest of the world. Our suicide, alcohol, go down the list. We're no different. That's the problem. So a random act of kindness exercised regularly, So it's random, but it's regular. Okay. Try to make that make sense in your head, but it can be done. Would break that cycle. There is a difference. We should act differently. And what better way to express it than a random act of kindness?
I agree. It's a great way to, even if you're having a bad day, when you do something nice for somebody else, it just, you can't hardly be in a bad mood if you're doing something nice for somebody. It does something on the inside of you, which I think is it's not only is it a good witness, but I think God wanted us to do that because as we sow those seeds of kindness, what do we know? Well, we expect a harvest, and we're not doing it with that expectation. We don't do random act of kindness in that, like you said, transactional mentality. But that's just how God's word works. Whatever you sow, you reap. I mean, that's a biblical principle. So it benefits us. It's a win-win. You help somebody, but then as you're sowing the seeds of kindness, that kindness will come back to you, and when you least expect it. And those have been some of the most precious things I can tell you about in my testimony, when somebody has done something for me that was unexpected. And I certainly could never repay their kindness, but I'll never forget it because it was just a kiss from heaven. It really was. God used that person as the hands and feet of Jesus on earth to bless me. And I want to do the same for others. I know you guys do. The people in the chat room gotten to know really well. And you, Coach, that's something that if it's just those of us who are listening right now would do that, it'd just be a better place to live. The world would be better. So I don't think we need a special holiday to remind us of that. As Christians, we should be doing that pretty much every day.
Do you remember at the North Carolina Christian Writers Conference, there was a woman there who had set up just one of these. She got the meeting with the publisher that everybody just so cherishes. And she somehow got it wrong what time she's supposed to be there.
Yes, I know exactly who it was. Yep.
Yeah, and she was. I remember she was she was visibly devastated because I approached her to do something else, and she just blew me off. I mean, just no.
She was sad. She drove all that way just for that one meeting.
Right.
That's the one that she wanted. Yeah.
And she was devastated. And then someone who had an upcoming meeting with that person heard about that, Andy Clapp.
That's right.
And said,
Andy Clapp.
Tell you what, I'll give you my appointment. Now, Andy expected nothing. That's Andy. That's who he is.
That's just who he is.
That's who he is. But God then stepped in, because somehow Andy got a new contract to write a book.
He did.
Out of the clear blue. Now, we shouldn't, as you say, we shouldn't go in expecting that. But doesn't God say, with regard to our giving, our tithing, to be faithful in those things, and God will open up the windows of heaven? Does he not promise that?
That's
now,
right.
That verse is about tithing, but could that principle also apply to the way that we show generosity to others? I think it could.
I mean, if you ever needed a great example or to show how this actually works, the sowing and reaping principle that the Bible talks about quite often, that with the story you just shared about Pastor Andy Clapp is a perfect example. He'd give you the shirt off his back, and does anytime he can. But I saw that woman's whole countenance change when he said, "You can have my appointment," because she was devastated. We were all trying to figure out how to get an appointment for her.
She was a train wreck.
He just steps up and says, "Here you go. You can have mine," which he really wanted to. He really, he didn't ask for anything ever. And that was one that was important to him. And then God says, "I'll do you one better, Andy. I'll give you the contract."
Yeah.
I just love that. You can never outgive God. And you can find reference to that all throughout the Bible.
And you may say, well, I did something like that years ago, and God didn't do that for me. Well, first of all, you don't know that. Okay? You think you know that, but you don't know that, because none of us know, and I do look forward to the day when God kind of plays the tape of my life and says, "Here's that time I saved your life, and you don't even know about it." You know,
right.
I was riding in a motorcycle so often, and Michelle, if an animal runs out in front of you, in a car it just goes thud. You know, that's okay. You know, you're okay. The animal is not, but you're okay. On a motorcycle, that's a different story. How many times has God spared my life that I don't even know about? So who are we to question God? You know, when you gonna open up the windows of heaven like you promised? He might already have. How do you know? this side of
That's
heaven.
right.
So do not be discouraged. And if you're doing it for some kind of affirmation or self-aggrandizement, well, then God loves a cheerful giver.
That's right.
I think the word, one of the translation is hilarious, not just cheerful, hilarious. Imagine that.
Yeah.
You know, you ever have
Yeah.
somebody say, "Well, if you want, I'll go ahead and do it." Almost like no,
Yeah,
no,
don't do me any
please,
favors.
yeah,
That's right.
don't, yeah.
I think that, the verse that says that God looks on the heart and man looks on the outward appearance.
Mm-hmm.
See, God knows your heart. So if you're not giving with a cheerful spirit, if you're giving with the wrong motive, giving to get, God knows that. You can't fool God. So no, you shouldn't expect anything. But the thing is that God's principles work. So if you're sowing generosity, if you're sowing kindness, it will come back to you. It might not be in the way you expected, or it doesn't mean that's going to happen tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But God will make good on it because he's a man of his word. It says that he holds his word above his name, so you can believe his word. His word will not return void.
Yeah. He hadn't broken a promise yet and won't.
That's right.
It's a fact. Well, Michelle, it's always cheerful anytime you get on the pjnet.tv, but tonight has been especially uplifting and I think challenging for all of us. Take it serious. Don't just wake up tomorrow and forget this, because it's a way of life. It's not something you do once a year. On Valentine's Day, we do these things, and on the 4th of July, we do these things, and on Veterans Day. No, these things need to remind us that we need to do it daily, and I think that message is one that is so needed in a culture that is just so dark, so dark. And thank you for shining the light, lighting the candle, Michelle. It's always a pleasure.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
All right. That was Michelle Medlock. And we even got a chance to briefly make that announcement, but I wasn't fully concentrating on the subject matter at hand. So let me, if you will bear with me, I need your help. Friday is not too long from now, but Friday evening, we are going to be recorded right here in our, they are opening their churches. We are going to open our studio for people to share the love of Christ and how their church or their organization is intervening in the lives of others. Show me the ministry. That's hashtag show me the ministry. Got it? Why am I saying I need your help? Well, because I can't possibly hunt down all these, we're going to need people to bird dog and point us to people that have a story to tell. Now, here's what I don't want. Please don't send me a long list of contacts for me to follow up on. Okay, I don't know these people. I don't have a relationship with them. I'll tell you a story. I used to, for a brief period in my life, I sold life insurance. And that's a tough business. I didn't like it. And the sales manager approached me one day and said, would you pay 50 cents for a lead? I said, well, sure. So he handed me a phone book and said I owed him $20,000. That's not the kind of lead I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is if you know them. Would you go ahead and contact them and ask them would they be willing to share? And it'll be pre-recorded. We'll be very flexible. I've cleared my slate of everything else between now and then. And it'll be about 10 minutes is what I figure. And if they're willing to go on camera and share what they are doing to intervene in the community to bring relief and comfort to others in the name of Jesus Christ, I would love to put it right up there, right there, okay? And put some good news out there and put some encouragement out there and give people hope and remind people that everything's not bad. Yes, there's a lot of bad things out there. I don't need to amplify those or point them out. But God has really placed it on my heart to bring out the good news of people in God's kingdom that are doing his work. So if you would please partner with us to be a part of that. Now, when will the program start? I don't know. Wouldn't it be awesome if it went 3 hours of just story after story after story? I mean, that's better than Hallmark. I mean, that'd be great. It might just be a few. I don't know. We'll find out. But be watching and be vigilant. Go find those stories and let's get them not to proclaim the glory of the pastor or the people in the church, but to proclaim the glory of Jesus Christ and the love that he shows through us in coming alongside and aiding and comforting those around us unconditionally. Wouldn't that be nice? I think that's consistent with biblical principles, don't you? Well, okay, all right. Well, thank you for staying up late with us tonight, and we've also got some new toys here that came in. I've been experimenting with them. Might even put them into play. Need a guinea pig, by the way. If you want to help PJ Net, be a guinea pig. We won't go on the air or anything, but we'll just do a little recording to see how some of this new gear works out, because I'll tell you more about it later. Before I leave, let's go over the two questions that I think are very important, and I hope you'll ask these questions to yourself. First, what is the boldest thing you've ever done for Jesus Christ? And second, how long ago was it? So, let's hope we'll never be satisfied with either answer.